keeping countries sovereign and free is one of the main principles behind which people like me shape our worldview. Obviously, there are cases where maybe I've gotten it wrong, or maybe I've had to make an exception, but it really is a problem, in my opinion, for the USA to basically dictate terms so forcefully about internal affairs of other countries that don't necessarily pertain to us. You know, I believe that the U.S. shouldn't force our lifestyles and worldviews on other countries, such as when President Obama went to Nigeria and started saying, "Well, you need better LGBT protections." At the time, that was very low on the priority list of Nigerian issues, and then of course President Bush was a huge interventionist, started the Iraq War, and I am hoping Donald Trump doesn't repeat that pattern with Venezuela. I do think that the Venezuela situation could be, fuck you, Windows Defender. The Venezuela situation could be basically dealt with through an international coalition where other countries in South America could force Maduro's hand, maybe even without using actual troops. But I don't want American troops in Venezuela. And I really think that we should shut the issue of race out of this. Okay, we should think of every country in the world as its own ecosystem for people to develop. You know, there are problems where, you know, things one country does overlap and hurt the interests of another country, but we should be able to mediate it in a different way. The UN is not succeeding at it. And the Deputy Prime Minister of Italy, Luigi Di Maio, actually made a very interesting point about what you could call neocolonialism in Africa. Okay, and this is more about economic exploitation than necessarily racism. I think racism could be an element of it, but let's look beyond that. Why is it that one country is basically able to leverage so much economic control over another country? You know, people accuse other countries of doing that here. They accuse China. They accuse Israel. They accuse, in some cases, Mexico. Okay, those things can be negotiated with. Okay, the U.S. can refuse certain requests of the Chinese government or the Israeli government, Mexican government. You know, there's ways for us to negotiate our relationships with them. In the case of Africa, former African colonies of France, such as Burkina Faso, and you know, I think another one would be Togo. You also have the Cameroon over there. They have a number of former colonies there. They don't really have that option because their entire financial system has been basically designed as kind of this dependent creature of the French economy, and now by extension the European economy. So to a certain extent, it's even gotten worse. And this is, I'll try to translate the best I can. I'm not fluent in Italian, but I can understand a lot of it. But if somebody knows better Italian than me, don't be ashamed to put something in the chat. So this is Luigi Di Maio. He's from the kind of the alternative left five-star party. They're kind of a left-wing nationalist party over in Italy.
Si parla di un caso diplomatico dopo le parole del governo.
Io non credo che sia un caso.
So they're asking, well, why are you making kind of a diplomatic incident out of your statements about France? And he's saying, I'm not trying to make a diplomatic incident.
Diplomatico. Io credo che sia tutto vero. Il fatto che la Francia è uno di quei paesi che, stampando una moneta per 14 stati africani, impedisce lo sviluppo di quegli stati africani e contribuisce alla partenza di profughi che poi muoiono nel Mediterraneo o arrivano sulle nostre coste.
Okay, so I'll try to summarize that. It's not easy, but he said, I'm merely stating the truth, which is that France, through its influence over the monetary policy, the currency of 14 African countries, is basically stamping out their economy or stepping on their economies and motivating these immigrants to go into Europe and cause problems over here in Europe.
Se l'Europa in questo momento vuole avere un po' di coraggio, deve avere la forza di affrontare il tema della decolonizzazione dell'Africa. Io mi sono stancato di parlare degli effetti dell'immigrazione, voglio cominciare ad affrontare le cause. Noi non sappiamo.
He's saying he's going to address the effects of immigration in Europe as well as the causes, and you know he's trying to be more fair than a lot of other people who are against immigration would be. He's against immigration. A lot of other people are against immigration for other reasons. But he's saying, you know, the real problem is that we don't address some of the causes of this, which would be the harmful effects of the French currency influence over Central and West Africa.
Saremo uno di quei governi che fingerà di non vedere le cause e passerà il tempo a piangere sugli effetti, cioè le morti in mare.
Ministro, mi scusi per...
He's saying, you know, if we don't actually address the cause of the problem, we're just going to have to deal with the effects of it.
Però al netto che non c'è correlazione fra le nazionalità di arrivo in Italia e i paesi che adottano la moneta, il franco in Africa, quindi questa correlazione che voi avanzate non c'è, al netto che la sua ricostruzione sul tipo di struttura del franco viene contestata in realtà da molte parti, ma al di là di questo lei a una persona che sta affogando sembra corretto dire non ci si deve preoccupare della retorica dei morti in mare come ha detto ieri, ma bisogna pensare alle cause, al di là che bisogna pensare anche alle cause, ma non c'è un intervento immediato di emergenza a cui invece state venendo meno.
Mi scusi, se chi porta avanti politiche economiche in Africa che impediscono lo sviluppo di decine di stati, poi interviene sulle morti in mare dicendo che è colpa dell'Italia.
So the question was not so clear to me. I think he was addressing the problem of why are you dredging up all these issues in Africa when in reality you're kind of just clouding up our relations with another European partner, which would be France. And Di Maio he makes the case, well, no, I have to deal with the situation as it is, not kind of paper it over.
Quella è retorica, perché in questo momento le morti in mare sono da scongiurare e noi dobbiamo sempre prestare aiuto. E ieri sera e stanotte siamo stati a telefono e abbiamo investito la Guardia Costiera libica delle sue responsabilità per fare quei salvataggi. I salvataggi sono stati fatti.
So he's making the point, you know, again, I can't translate word for word, but he's making the point that, you know, they have to dedicate resources in Italy, Coast Guard, and other defense resources in order to deal with this migrant crisis, which, by the way, can also lead to terrorism because a lot of these countries have their own terror groups over there that have, you know, designs on Europe. And this is a part of his job. It's addressing issues of Italian security, Italian interests in the Mediterranean, and he'd rather confront the issue rather than hide from it.
Il giorno prima erano morte 117 persone, lo sa, quindi la Guardia Libica non era intervenuta in quel caso, forse c'è un problema con la Libia.
Perché non ci sono stati altri morti in questi anni, o l'anno scorso c'erano più morti di quest'anno.
Voi dovete occupare di quelli di quest'anno.
Assolutamente.
Ne state occupando al meglio.
Ce ne occupiamo impedendo le partenze dall'Africa, si impediscono le morti in mare. Se ci sono morti in mare in questo momento mi dispiace tantissimo e dobbiamo evitarle, però se invece qui i partiti italiani e gli stati europei vogliono solo parlare degli effetti migratori, che non sono solo i morti, sono anche le persone che sbarcano in Europa, poi continuando ad influenzare quelle economie, impedendone lo sviluppo e l'autonomia, e allora a me non sta più bene. La verità è che finché non lasceremo in pace quella gente in Africa continuerà a partire e il mio dovere è fare in modo che l'Unione Europea, come governo, l'Unione Europea si occupi di questo tema e inizi una decolonizzazione vera dell'Africa.
E l'Italia però...
So he's saying, you know, if the European Union, you know, one thing that I caught out of there, because it was not exactly clear to me, is that the European Union does have to address the problem of decolonializing Africa, which is a funny statement to hear in 2019.
Affrontare le cause cosa sta facendo, ministro, invece, scusi?
And I think that there was, somebody had made the point, well, Italy had also had colonies in Africa. Well, the relationship, so here's the deal, okay? So Italy, before World War II, had colonies in Somaliland. They had Italian Somaliland, which is most of modern-day Somalia. They had Libya, and I'm not sure. I think they had one other colony. I don't even remember. It was Eritrea. So they had 3 colonies in Africa. They occupied Ethiopia for, I think, 4 or 5 years. But that was it. France, on the other hand, have pegged all those countries that used to be part of French West and Central Africa, have their currency pegged to the franc as of 1960. Now, the franc is gone. Okay, the franc is gone. So the CFA franc was created on December 26, 1945, the date on which France ratified the Bretton Woods Agreements and made its first declaration of parity to the International Monetary Fund. At the time, the name meant franc of the French colonies of Africa. Okay, so it still means that they're still using a currency that's defined as the franc of the French colonies of Africa. It was later known as the franc of the African Financial Community to the member states of the West African Monetary Union, and as the franc of financial cooperation in Central Africa to the member countries of the Central African Monetary Union. But it's the same currency, okay? And it still uses the same symbol of the CFA. And yeah, since 1999, it's been pegged to the euro. And for those of you that don't understand why that's important, we in the United States, we have this dispute with China, and dispute would be putting it lightly, about the fact that they peg the I think it's called the yuan. Their currency is pegged to the dollar. I think there's a constant exchange rate, and they keep their currency deliberately weak in order to screw with us. And it's kind of like a huge dick measuring contest with them. With this case, it's probably several orders of magnitude worse, because the actual financial structure of those countries' currencies is entirely dependent on France. This is something I learned about 3 or 4 years ago, and it really is surprising. And unfortunately, Mr. De Maio is correct. You know, he's correct. I think, and this is one of the reasons I think that Italy is going to be one of the bigger leaders of shifting Europe away from this multilateral bullcrap. Okay, Italy is a country where people mostly address the needs of Italians, I think. You know, there are some globalist Italians. I don't think that they're doing too well right now, especially since they were demolished last year in the March elections. So you have Italy. They're going to be a wedge between France and a lot of the other countries in Eastern Europe. So you have France and Germany. They're the main pro-globalism powers in Europe. And then on the other hand, you're going to have Italy, Poland, Slovakia, Czech Republic, and Hungary. They're kind of moving away from that. Of course, Britain on the side is a little different of an issue with Brexit. But what's going to happen with these countries? Is this going to be kind of a new watershed moment in French history? Because, yeah, you know, Macron is actually hated in France as well. But I would assume that he's not too popular in some of these other countries. But, let me know what you guys think. That's about it for right now. I just thought it was a very interesting video. I actually saw one on RT about it, but they didn't actually directly reference his remarks. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to me also on Cocoscope and on BitChute and all of the other social media here. And I'll see you guys later.